Hello, explorers, and welcome to Q&A episode number 23 of Unbroken. I'm your host, Alexandra Amor. Quick programming note before we get into today's episode. If you're listening to this on the day that it comes out, which is July 17th, 2023, I just want to quickly let you know that next week, the week of July 24th, there will not be any new episodes of Unbroken. I'm going to take a quick summer break. And we will be back to regular programming on Monday, July 31st. So I will see you again then. There is an interview episode this coming week, 17, 18, 19, 20, on the 21st with the lovely Fiona Jacob. So that's coming up first. And then there will be a break. No episodes the week of July 24th. All right, let's get into it. So today I've called the episode Love Letters from Wisdom. And I got that phrase from the lovely Dr. Bill Pettit. I was listening to an interview with him the other day while I was puttering around in the kitchen. And he used that phrase about basically the things that happen within us, our feelings and our emotions and our experiences that we have, things like depression, and I'll get into that more in a minute and talk about what I saw in that. And I'll link to the interview with Dr. Pettit in the show notes at unbrokenpodcast.com. You can just go to Q&A number 23 and you'll find the link there. I'll put it at the top of the blog post. So I can't even remember actually what Dr. Pettit was talking about specifically. It might have been depression in the moment when he uses that phrase, love letters from wisdom. And when I had stopped listening to the interview, I wrote the phrase down and I realized that so much of what we experience in life is love letters from wisdom. And here's why I say that. So I often talk about on this show and in the course that I've designed about letting go of an unwanted overeating habit that you'll find at freedomfromovereating.com. Just a little shameless plug there. I often talk about how our cravings for a substance and what ends up becoming an unwanted habit, how those things are, those feelings, that craving, that drive to overeat is not a problem. And this is one of the reasons why I say that. So what Dr. Pettit is talking about when he's talking about love letters from wisdom, he's referencing the idea that our design, our human design, is perfect and it's not working against us when we have these experiences like a craving or like an anger or an upset at a spouse or a friend or a feeling of anxiety or something like depression. I've been experiencing some depression for the last couple of weeks. And one of the things that really helped me was to remember that there is wisdom in all of these things that we experience, that they are reminders that point us back toward our true nature, toward our innate well-being and the peace that we are made of. So when we experience something like, I'll use the depression that I've been feeling the last couple of weeks as an example, I really chose to look at that as I was experiencing it, and it wasn't fun. I didn't enjoy it. It wasn't a good time. Certainly it was just not a lot of fun for me. But at the same time, I knew that there had to be wisdom in that experience. And what that wisdom was pointing me toward was this idea that we are always entirely whole. And the way that I tend to look at something like depression is that it's it's almost letting me know that there is an insight to come about something in my life that I hadn't seen up to that point. At least that's one of the experiences that I've had of depression. The other one I've had is the one I've probably talked about on this show, the burnt out hairdryer metaphor that Michael Neal uses, that when our minds are going so fast that we become, without realizing it, quite burnt out. Depression is a gift that's getting us to slow down, and it's letting us know that we're sort of overheated. That's the metaphorical use of the example of the hairdryer. When you're using a hairdryer and it gets too hot, it'll just shut off. So when I've been experiencing this depression for the last couple of weeks, I really tried to remind myself that that depression was made of wisdom, and that it wasn't something that I needed to fight against. And I think this is really the sort of the key about that, the key thing that the key element that I wanted to address today. When we have these love letters from wisdom, and we innocently push against them, fight against them, what we end up doing is denying ourselves the experience of learning or growing or seeing something in a new light. So, for example, when it comes to cravings for food, when we simply try to wrestle those into submission without seeing them for the wise messages that they are, then we miss the lesson that we are whole and well. And that lesson can eventually seep out, pervade our entire lives, all elements of our life. And I think it's such a shame in our culture that we're generally unaware of the way that our divine design works in this way that Sydney Banks pointed toward. And it is a shame, because when we lean into the things that are happening, when we notice them and respect them and turn toward them, and sit with them in a very present kind of way, sort of a mindful way, that's when they can teach us and show us, a greater understanding of our innate well-being and the profound peace that is our true nature. But like I said a few minutes ago, when we fight against them, when we push them away and try to control them, in the case of depression, maybe I could have spent that last couple of weeks beating myself up about being depressed, or feeling like there was something wrong with me that needed to be addressed. And instead, when we view these things as love letters from wisdom, as Dr. Pettit says, that's when they have so much information for us. And I'll be the first to say it's easy to forget to do that. It's easy to fall into a place of fighting against these uncomfortable feelings or things that we're not enjoying the experience of. And then it's enough when if we periodically remember, oh, right, this feeling that I'm having, it isn't a punishment from the universe or something. It does not mean that there's anything broken about me. It's actually my perfect design at work. And I love that. So I just want to sum up too by referring to, there's this quote, I think it's from Albert Einstein, who said there are two ways to look at life. One is though everything is a miracle, and the other as though nothing is. And I feel like now my approach to life is like that quote. It's just slightly different. One is one way to look at life is as though these feelings that we have, these things that we worry about, that we feel are broken about ourselves, are actually wisdom. And the other is to imagine that they're not. So what if the cravings that you might be having, the drive to overeat, what if that is actually wisdom? What if it's not a problem, but it's wisdom speaking to you from the greatest part of yourself? So I'll leave you there with that question. And I look forward to talking to you again on the 31st of July, 2023. Until then, please take care, and I will see you then. Bye.